MSW Media.
Hello, and welcome to the second season of the Martin Sheen podcast. With yours truly, Martin Sheen, of course, and I'm delighted to be back hosting this podcast pilgrimage where the destination is still the journey itself. Along the way, I plan to share stories and personal memories of some of the many people, places, and events that have helped to shape my lifelong, happy, and continuing struggle as an artist and a man to unite the will of the Spirit with the work of the flesh. I also hope to explore poetry as a powerful form of expression and communication by proxy, as it were, and how poetry is such a vital and necessary component of our spirituality and our public discourse. And from time to time, I'll invite friends, fellow actors, poets, scholars, and family members to join our pilgrimage and discuss what inspires their artistic journey. And so, friends, let us begin. Filming The Way on the Camino to Santiago de Compostela was one of the most important and rewarding experiences of my life, and it was by far the most satisfying role of my career. The Way was filmed in 2009 over an 8-week schedule and followed the pilgrimage route from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in the French Pyrenees across northern Spain to Santiago and then on to Murcia for the final scene. The entire production was a family affair. My son Emilio wrote and directed the film, and he played my character's son Daniel, and our combined Camino experience inspired us to write a father-son memoir called Along the Way, which was published in 2012. My daughter Renee played a feature role, and she is, of course, the producer of this podcast, and my son Ramon played a key role in the final scene. My wife Janet produced the film, and my son Charlie provided the necessary funds to complete the film in post-production. My father, Francisco Estevez, came from a tiny village in Galicia, Spain called Tui, in Pararrubia Salta Revolta, not far from Santiago, and The Way is dedicated to him in loving memory. But none of the above would have come to pass if not for my grandson Taylor Estevez, Emilio's son, and a beautiful young girl named Julia Palacin. These two met on the Camino at the Casa Rural called El Molino in Burgos in 2003. Gradually, our two families grew together around the Camino, culminating with their wedding at El Molino in the summer of 2009, just before we began filming The Way. Like the Camino itself, The Way is truly a gift that keeps on giving. Since the film's release in 2011, it has inspired many thousands of people, mostly from the U.S. and Canada, to make the pilgrimage, and many of those have shared their Camino experiences with my family. But I must confess, I have never actually made the full pilgrimage on foot myself, outside of my performance in the film, and I still have this burning desire to do so. I think of the Camino as an opportunity to unite the will of the Spirit with the work of the flesh. And though I know it's useless to regret the many lost opportunities I had to fulfill my dream, I continue to imagine myself out on the Camino in all seasons at any number of familiar and sacred places, and my spirit soars. There I am, leaving Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in the French Pyrenees, walking to Roncesvalles, the first stop in Spain, then on to Pamplona, and before long, I'm entering the gates at Burgos. Suddenly, I'm arriving in León, and I can see Cruz de Ferro in the distance. Then before I know it, I'm heading down the rainy slopes in Galicia to the steps of the great Cathedral of Santiago. And all along the way, from every stranger and fellow pilgrim, from every open door and window of every house in every town and village, from every mass in every church and every bunk and every shelter, from every patron and every bar, from every rock, every tree, every field and stream, from every wood and every hill and valley, from every bird and cloud in every sky, from every path and yellow shell that points the way to Santiago, from everywhere and everything and everyone, I hear the long-promised blessing of Buen Camino! like a shouted hosanna, it is spontaneously and joyously bestowed. Yet I am reminded it is reserved solely for those on pilgrimage, and I'm not among them. Yet. Perhaps next year, or the following year, or sometime in the not-too-distant future, all that may change. Meanwhile, the way continues to fuel my imagination and inspire future pilgrims. Hola, peregrinos! Buen camino! We're going to take a little break here, but I assure you there's more to come. Stay tuned. Welcome back. I'm so glad you stayed. And now, I am delighted at this time to welcome to our mic for an interview one of my favorite people in all of the world, my son, Emilio. We're delighted to have you.
Thank you. Thank you. And I'm delighted to be here.
Well, I'm going to back up a little bit to The Way, which I've talked about it, bragged about it, long to do part 2, but that is, if not the most satisfying experience of my life, then it is the most impressive thing that I've watched. I must have seen it at least a half a dozen times since then. I can still watch it. I'm still moved and intrigued, and it is one of the most perfect movies ever made.
Thank you.
And I am just so proud of you and your work and your insight and the way you're able to see through as a director and how you brought that together. Please share with us how that whole concept that I think started with your son, Taylor.
It really started with you going.
Oh, now it's my fault.
We're going overseas because you'd want to, and Taylor at the time was working as your assistant.
Yeah, he was my assistant. He was 19 years old. We're talking about Taylor Estevez, your oldest child. Yeah.
And he didn't know any better. He didn't know to say, hey, I'm not going to go to Europe with the old man because, hey, it was a free trip. And he got stuck. Talk about walking into a wall and then it became a door. You were the wall, and then Europe became his door.
Yeah, in 2003, I was in the summer break of The West Wing, and we just lost my brother Al, and I decided that there would be no more funerals. We're going to have reunions. And so I gathered, and I got Ramon to organize the entire community of my siblings. And so at that time, my brother Carlos, my brother Frank, my brother Joe, and my sister Carmen Carmen is and Joe are still living, but the rest are all gone now. And I said, let's go to Ireland and spend our mother's 100th birthday, which was May 22nd, 1903. This would be 100 years to her. She died in 1951. She was 48. But I said, let's go to her hometown and celebrate her life and just spend time with each other there where it all happened. And so everybody came, and so Taylor got stuck with me, and so did Matt Clark, because everyone in Ireland thought he was my brother. So I thought I better not go there without him. So we went there, and after this 3-day celebration, which was so gratifying and beautiful, I said, look, let's all go to Spain and see if we can do the Camino.
Crickets.
Crickets. Again, Taylor and Matt were stuck with me, so we went to Spain. And I don't know how we came to it. I think Carmen suggested, my sister Carmen, living in Madrid at the time, said, why don't you suss it out? I didn't have enough time to do the Camino. I had to be back in L.A. to begin the fourth season of The West Wing in a few weeks. And so it was ludicrous to think that I could actually do the Camino, which is an 800-kilometer trip.
It takes about 6 weeks.
If you're young.
But you've got to dedicate 6 weeks to it.
And I thought, well, we can do this. So I finally came to my senses. We rented a car and we drove the Camino. And one stop, we couldn't find a place to go, a refugio.
But didn't you go to Hornillos first? And Hornillos, it was a bar, and the bar said, hey, I know this Casa Rural, and they take in pilgrims there, and you should go there. And you did.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. It's off the beaten path, but they will come and pick you up if you call them. Yeah, that's how it happened. Yeah, so we stayed overnight there, and the next day we left, and it was so pleasant and wonderful. And Matt Clark was fed up with doing all the driving, and it was a stick shift car. And so he said, you guys are going to learn how to drive this thing. So Taylor took the first try driving it. And meanwhile, I started walking and I got lost and I got into this I thought, I'm going to do the Camino. And I got lost and I'm afraid of dogs. And there was sleeping dogs everywhere I turned. And so I got lost avoiding them. And they came looking for me and finally found me. And then I took a driving test. And so all three of us now knew how to drive the car. Now it's getting dark. What do we do? Where do we go? So, well, we're near that place, El Molino, that we were at last night. Let's go back and see if they got another room. And so we did. And they said, yes, we're happy as Larry to have you. And so we got rooms. And we were at the Pilgrim Supper. And
by the way, English was not spoken there.
No,
not even, beyond hello.
Yeah, just about it.
That's kind of it.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So we were at this big table with all these people from all these different countries. And Taylor was sitting next to me, and he spoke enough Spanish to interpret for me. What's he saying? What's she saying? Say this, say that. Okay, he said, and suddenly a little girl appeared, a young girl appeared serving people. And she was on the other side of the table. She looked across at Taylor, and she stopped serving, and she's looking, and I go, who's she looking at? And I look, and she's looking, and wait, who's he looking at? He's looking back at her, and the two of them are locked. It's the masked ball for Romeo and Juliet. It's happening, and she says to him in Spanish, "Do you smoke?" And he said, "I do." And she said, "Would you like to join me for a cigarette?" I will. And he disappeared. They've been together since that moment.
Yeah.
They were married there, and he started living there. And so for you to see him, or you
had to go to Spain.
You had to go to Spain. So now the story's yours.
No, and so I went to see him to celebrate his 21st birthday. And surprised him. Yeah. So we flew in under cover of night and stayed at Carmen's house and called him pretending that it was the middle of the night in Los Angeles, so that he would, and he saw that it was a California number, of course, and so he was none the wiser. Yeah. And then I took the train up to Burgos
from Madrid
and surprised him. And stayed in Burgos, and then visited the Molino and saw these folks coming in and out from all these different countries. And I thought, well, this is fascinating.
Yeah,
and
what's going on?
Yeah,
here?
Well, what are these people doing, and what is this community of pilgrims of all things? I thought the pilgrimage is something that you only do when you go to the Hajj, and you make pilgrimage to Mecca, or you make pilgrimage to Israel, Spain. It was completely, quite literally foreign to me. So,
no pun intended.
All pun intended. So I came home and we started talking, and you said, "Hey, how about we do this story about an old man and two old guys and a young guy, and they walk the Camino?" And I thought, that's really boring. So
it was a comedy.
Yeah, without the humor. So I began to craft this idea, or craft a story around this idea, that it was the loss of a son that brought the father over, that inspired him ultimately to find himself along the way. And that was ultimately, when I pitched that idea to you, you said, well, go, let's see what you come up with.
Yeah.
And I wrote a draft, completed it on January 29th, and you were scheduled to do the Graham Norton show, if you recall, and they gave you 2 tickets. And so I said,
to London. You and I went to London.
And so I said, why don't we go? I've got the script. I know some producers in London. I'll talk to them about it. You do the Graham Norton show, and then we'll go over and see Carmen and Taylor, and we'll do a location scout. And you, I think, didn't read the script until we were actually on the plane.
I think that sounds right.
And you said, "Well, this is good. It's got to," and it had some things in there that ultimately I tossed out, but the bulk of it remained intact.
Yeah,
and
the father-son. Yeah.
Exactly, the father-son thing. And you objected to the Dutchman and the partying and the dope smoking and the drinking. And you said, people go out there for religious pilgrimage. They don't. So now,
what did I know?
he had this fantastical idea that it was all about the nature of the pilgrimage was all about spiritual, that it wasn't, that was the driving force behind everybody who does it. I was like, well, that's not the case. I said, people come out here and party their asses off. People come out here looking for love. People are trying to get in shape. It's not just a spiritual, and that's where, again, if there was any sort of rift between us during the writing and the creation of the movie, I think you wanted it to be more overtly religious, where
spiritual.
was more
Yeah,
spiritual.
yeah.
I had no objection with the spiritual. I had objection with the religiosity of it.
Yeah.
And so, and objection is a strong word. I think it was more, I wanted to be inclusive. I didn't want anyone who saw the movie, Jews, Gentiles, Muslims, and anyone to see this movie and feel
it's not about them.
That it's not, that they weren't
Not for
included
them,
in the
yeah.
journey. It's not for them.
It is for everybody, though.
But so we're out we're doing the location scout, and we went to Rosenzweig, and we went to Saint Jean Pied de Port. We stayed at these places, and when we started, I don't know if you remember, but Taylor said, "Let's just drive on the Camino," and we did.
Yeah,
we took this rental car and we drove on the Camino, and the four of us and we came upon 3 or 4 pilgrims from the Czech Republic, and
in the middle of winter.
In the middle, it was February and it was freezing. Yeah. And he insisted that we give them their food. We give these pilgrims our food because they're out here in the middle of nowhere. And here, take this sandwich, take this. And one guy turns to us and he says, "We have everything we need." And he pulls a giant bottle of Jack Daniels out of his backpack and he shows it. And the 3 of them take a big swig and they're like, and then they said, "Buen Camino." And I looked at Martin and I said, "There you have it. There's the Dutchman."
Yeah, you're right.
There he is. Yeah. These guys were not on some religious quest.
Yeah.
They were partying.
Yeah.
And so that I just remember that moment, and I looked at you, and the light kind of went on
in me
and you, and you said, "Okay, I get it now. It can't just be Martin's way. It is the way."
Yeah.
And then by September of that year, we were shooting.
Yeah. It's amazing. Absolutely astonishing.
So and with a very small crew, we walked with 50 people along this 500-mile journey plus, because we continued on to Machia, where you deposit the ashes.
The vast majority of the film did take place on the actual Camino.
Yeah.
We're talking about the way, trying to remember stories that we can share here on the podcast. And there's some wonderful stories in there. I'm so happy that you came and shared.
Oh, man.
We'll sign off with that. Thanks for joining us. Consider this quote from T.S. Eliot. "Only those who will risk going too far can possibly find out how far one can go." I invite you to delve further into the works of the poets I shared with you. And I hope you seek out writers and poets whose work speaks to your hearts and minds with the power to inspire your life. If you've enjoyed what you've heard here, please subscribe to my podcast, The Martin Sheen Podcast, with your host, yours truly, Martin Sheen, of course, wherever you find your podcasts. Yeah, I have to say that. You can find a complete list of the poets and titles of their poems that I've chosen at our website, themartinsheenpodcast.com. I want to thank the people who make this podcast possible, our producer and research assistant, Renee Estevez, who assures me that the internet is a real thing and a safe place, if not used off-label, and our sound engineer and editor, Bruce Greenspan, the man behind these rich and seamless recordings, and to his dog, Gracie, our studio mascot, who snores in perfect pentameter. And so, friends, we part with the prayer from Tagore. We are called to lift up this nation and all its people to that place where the heart is without fear, and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depths of truth and tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sands of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action into that heaven of freedom, dear Father. Let our country awake. Amen.
The Martin Sheen Podcast, all rights reserved. No part of this podcast may be reproduced, distributed, or transmitted in any form without prior written consent of the author and TE Productions. The story Called to Walk the Way by Ramon Gerard Estevez, a.k.a. Martin Sheen, is included here by granted copyright permission.